Welcome, traveler, to a sanctuary of time and shadow. Tonight, our journey takes us across the vast, silver reaches of the Pacific to a land defined by the delicate balance of the sword and the flower. We are stepping into the heart of ancient Japan, a realm where the morning sun first touches the jagged peaks of the Fujisan, and the cherry blossoms fall like silent snow upon the temple floors. As you settle into your space, let the weight of the modern world dissolve. There is no urgency here, no noise, and no haste. We are here to walk the winding paths of the samurai, following the echoes of Bushido through the bamboo groves and the quiet halls of the shogunate. Feel the cool mountain air begin to surround you, carrying the scent of cedar incense and the rhythmic sound of a distant water feature in a stone garden. Your journey has begun. Close your eyes, breathe with the rhythm of the tide, and let the history of the samurai wrap around you like a silken kimono. You are safe, you are arrived, and the path is open. The gateway of the mind before we truly step onto the soil of ancient Japan. Let us take a moment to ensure that the bridge between your world and this distant past is strong and clear. Imagine the space around you beginning to change, not with a sudden shift, but with the slow, graceful movement of a morning mist rolling over a valley. The walls of your room are no longer solid. They are becoming screens of translucent paper and aged cedar, catching the soft, silver light of a moon that rose 1,000 years ago. Feel your body becoming heavier, sinking into the soft tatami of the present moment, supported by the weight of history itself. Every breath you take is a step deeper into the forest, a step further away from the noise of the modern era. The hum of machines is replaced by the hollow, rhythmic clack of a bamboo water pipe in a silent garden. The air is cooling, carrying the scent of moss, wet stone, and the distant, faint aroma of wood smoke from a mountain shrine. You are not just listening to a story. You are dissolving into it, becoming a shadow moving through the gardens of the past. The twilight of the Heian dream. Our journey begins in the year 794, in the city of Heian, the capital of peace and tranquility. Imagine a city laid out like a grand silk tapestry, a grid of wide avenues and narrow alleys where the very air seems to vibrate with a sense of refined elegance. This is the world of the imperial court, a place of such profound beauty and isolation that it feels like a dream within a dream. Here, the passage of time is measured not by hours, but by the blooming of flowers and the changing colors of the maple leaves. Visualize the Great Palace, a sprawling complex of wooden pavilions connected by covered walkways that float over mirrored ponds. The wood is dark and polished, reflecting the flickering orange glow of oil lamps. There is a sound, hair soft, persistent, rustled the sound of silk trailing over polished floors. The nobility of this era, where layers upon layers of exquisite fabric, a kaleidoscope of colors that represent the subtle shifts in the seasons. Listen to the muffled voices behind the bamboo blinds, the hushed whispers of courtiers discussing poetry and the nuances of incense. It is a world of extreme softness, where the sharp edges of reality are blunted by art, music, and the constant pursuit of aesthetic perfection. But as you drift through these golden halls, notice the stillness. The court is a sanctuary, but it is also a gilded cage. Outside the city gates, beyond the manicured gardens and the ritualized ceremonies, the land of Japan is wild, untamed, and breathing with a different kind of energy. The mists are thick on the horizon, and within those mists, a new class of people is beginning to stir. The call of the frontier. We leave the capital now, moving away from the scent of plum blossoms and into the sharp, clean air of the provinces. As we travel eastward, toward the Kanto Plain, the landscape begins to transform. The wide, flat avenues of the city give way to narrow, winding trails that hug the sides of volcanic ridges. The trees here are taller, older ancient cedars and pines that stand like silent sentinels, their branches heavy with lichen and dew. The rhythm of life here is different. It is dictated by the soil, the seasons, and the necessity of protection. In these rugged borderlands, the central authority of the emperor is a distant memory, a faint echo that rarely reaches the deep valleys. Here, the local landowners, men of iron and earth, have realized that they can only rely on themselves. They are the first to be called Sabarao, those who serve, but their service is beginning to shift from the abstract rituals of the court to the practical defense of their homes. Feel the cooling temperature of the mountain air as we climb higher. The sound of the city is gone, replaced by the rushing of cold mountain streams and the occasional, lonely cry of a crane. The ground beneath your feet is damp and dark, rich with the history of the earth. In this solitude, the first samurai are finding their purpose. They are not yet the armored warriors of legend. They are frontiersmen, bowmen, and horsemen who find their strength in the silence of the wilderness, the way of the bow and the horse. In these early centuries, the samurai's soul is found not in the sword, but in the long bow. Imagine a warrior standing alone in a clearing at dawn. The world is gray and blue, the first light of the sun just beginning to silver the edges of the clouds. He holds a bow made of laminated bamboo and wood, a curve of elegant power that stands taller than he does. Listen to the sound of the bowstringer's sharp, musical thrum that vibrates through the still air. This sound is a prayer, a meditation. For the early samurai, the act of shooting is a ritual of focus and breath. There is no haste in his movements. He draws the string back past his ear, his breath slow and rhythmic, his eyes fixed on a target that is as much internal as it is external. When the arrow is released, it is a silent extension of his will, disappearing into the mist with a soft hiss. Beside him stands his horse, a small but sturdy creature with a thick coat and intelligent eyes. The bond between the warrior and his mount is absolute, a partnership forged in the mud of the rice paddies and the dust of the mountain trails. Together, they move through the landscape like a single entity, a shadow passing through the trees. The rhythmic thud-thud of the horse's hooves on the soft earth is a grounding pulse, a heartbeat that echoes the turning of the world. As you listen to that sound, let your own pulse slow to match it. Thud-thud, thud-thud, you are moving with them, drifting through the ancient forests, safe and unhurried. The first estates, sanctuaries of cedars, the light fades into a deep, bruised purple. We approach a provincial estate Ashun. This is not a fortress, but a sturdy manor built of cedar, cypress, and thatch, nestled into the crook of a valley. The walls are low and made of rammed earth, designed to blend into the landscape rather than dominate it. Step inside the gate. The courtyard is swept clean, the gravel crunching softly underfoot. In the center of the main hall, a sunken hearth and ira glows with a steady orange warmth. A small fire of charcoal and pine knots flickers quietly, casting long, peaceful shadows against the exposed wooden beams of the ceiling. There is a pot of iron hanging over the flames, the water inside beginning to simmer with a gentle, white noise hiss. The air inside the house smells of wood smoke, dried straw, and the clean, sharp scent of the forest outside. The samurai sits by the fire, his movements slow and deliberate. He is cleaning his equipment, not with the aggression of a soldier, but with the care of a craftsman. He wipes the moisture from his bow, checks the fletching of his arrows, and looks out through the open sliding doors into the darkening night outside. The bamboo groves are swaying in the evening breeze, making a sound like rushing water. This is the soughing of the wind, a constant, hushing melody that has comforted the people of these islands for eons. Listen to that sound, sheath the sound of the wind through the leaves. It is the sound of the earth breathing. It tells the warrior that he is home, that his lands are quiet, and that for this night, the world is at peace. The philosophy of the fragile and the quiet of these provincial nights. The early samurai began to develop a unique perspective on life, influenced by the Buddhism and Shintoism that permeated the land. They began to see the world through the lens of Mono no Aware, the pathos of things, the bittersweet beauty of the impermanent. Think of the cherry blossom. It is beautiful not because it lasts, but because it is so quick to fall. The samurai looked at the blossoms dancing in the wind and saw a reflection of their own lives. They understood that to be a warrior was to live on the edge of the void, to be like a leaf ready to fall at the peak of its color. This realization did not bring them fear, but a profound, quiet peace. If life is fleeting, then every moment, taste of cold water, the smell of the rain, the sight of the moon over a ridge is a gift of infinite value. As you lie there, let this feeling of beautiful impermanence wash over you. The worries of your day are like those falling blossoms. They are drifting away, landing softly on the surface of a dark pond and floating out of sight. You are left with only the present moment, the warmth of your surroundings, and the steady, ancient rhythm of the story. There is nothing to hold on to, and in that letting go, there is total rest. The Taira and the Minamoto, the rising tides as we reach the conclusion of this first era. The mists of the 12th century are beginning to thicken with the scent of change. Two great families, the Taira and the Minamoto, are rising like twin tides from the provinces. They are the ultimate expression of this new warrior class. Families that have spent generations honing their skills in the mountains and the plains. But even as their power grows, the landscape of Japan remains a place of deep, atmospheric beauty. Imagine the inland sea at twilight, its waters as smooth as a sheet of gray silk. Thousands of wooden ships glide silently across the surface, their lanterns looking like fallen stars. The mountains rise steeply from the water's edge, their peaks lost in the clouds. The world is suspended in a moment of transition, a great breath being held before the next chapter of history begins. We are drifting now, away from the early origins and toward the great conflicts that will define the samurai age. But the feeling of part one remains with us, the scent of the cedar, the sound of the bowstring, and the profound silence of the mountain estates. The road is long, and the night is deep. The cooling of the spirit as we move deeper into the night. The mists of the early Heian and Kamakura periods begin to settle, and the chaotic energy of the frontier matures into a profound, disciplined stillness. The moon has climbed higher now, casting a sharp, silvery light over the Zen gardens of Kyoto and the rugged fortresses of the north. In this second stage of our journey, we move away from the external landscapes of forest and field, and step into the internal landscape of the samurai's soul. This is the era where the warrior's path becomes more than just a means of survival. It becomes Bushido, the way of the warrior. Imagine the air around you becoming even more still, even more focused. The scent of the wild pine is joined by the refined aroma of sandalwood incense and the metallic, grounding scent of the master's forge. You are entering a world of absolute precision, where every movement is a meditation and every thought is a preparation for the eternal. The Seven Virtues, a tapestry of silence. Bushido is not a book of laws, but a scent that permeates the air, a rhythm that dictates the heartbeat. Visualize these virtues not as rigid commands, but as soft, glowing lanterns lining a dark path. First, there is Chi. Imagine it as a perfectly straight line drawn in the white sand of a temple garden. It is the clarity of knowing one's place in the universe. Then comes you, heroic courage. This is not the loud bravery of the battlefield, but the quiet courage of a mountain that remains unmoved by the storm. Feel that stability within your own body. Your limbs are as heavy and unshakable as the stone. As you breathe in, contemplate Jin benevolence. It is the softness of a silk sleeve, the realization that true strength is found in the power to be gentle. Next is Reiri's. Hear the soft rustle of a deep bow, the silent acknowledgement of the dignity in all living things. Makoto honesty is as clear as a mountain spring, while my honor is the reflection of the moon in that same water, untarnished and bright. Finally, there is Chugi loyalty, the anchor that holds the ship steady in the vast, dark ocean of time. Let these virtues wrap around you like a protective cloak. They are the architecture of the samurai's mind, a structure of peace that allows them to face the void without fear. In this mental sanctuary, there is no room for anxiety or haste. There is only the steady, rhythmic pulse of honor. The rhythms of the forge now let the scene shift. We move from the quiet temple into the dim, heat-softened atmosphere of the swordsmith's hut. This is a sacred space, purified by prayer and protected by the ancient gods of the earth. The air here is warm, a comforting contrast to the cool night outside. Listen to the sound of the bellows, a rhythmic, hushing whoosh-ha, whoosh-has. They breathe life into the charcoal fire. The coals glow with a deep, mesmerizing orange, a sun trapped within the shadows. The master smith moves with a grace that has been perfected over decades. He takes a piece of Tamahagen, the jewel steel, and places it into the heart of the fire. Watch as the metal transforms from cold gray to a vibrant, liquid cherry red. This is the birth of the katana, the soul of the samurai. Listen to the hammer. Clang, clang, clang. The sound is hypnotic, a silver bell ringing in the darkness. Each strike is a heartbeat. The steel is folded, once, twice, 1,000 times, creating layers as thin and numerous as the leaves of an ancient book. This process is the ultimate metaphor for the samurai themselves. The impurities are hammered out, and the strength is folded in. The metal is being taught to be both incredibly hard and incredibly flexible as the hammer falls. Feel the tension leaving your own body with every rhythmic strike. Clang, your shoulders relax. Clang, your breath deepens. Clang, the world outside the forge ceases to exist. There is only the heat, the rhythmic sound, and the slow, deliberate creation of perfection. The quench and the hamon. The most critical moment arrives in the deepest part of the night, the yakiwire, or the quenching. The smith covers the blade in a secret mixture of clay, charcoal, and stone powder. He heats the blade until it glows with the color of the morning sun, and then, with a single, fluid motion, he plunges it into a trough of cold water. Listen to the sound, a sudden, violent hiss that quickly settles into a gentle gurgle. In this instant, the soul of the sword is fixed. When the blade emerges, it bears the hamon, the temper line. Look closely at the steel. The hamon looks like a range of misty mountains, or the foam on the crest of a wave. It is a landscape captured in metal, a reminder that nature is the ultimate master. The sword is now a bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It is cold to the touch, as smooth as glass, and as sharp as a thought. When the samurai slides the finished blade into its lacquered scabbard, the sound of soft wooden clicks, the sound of a story being completed. The weapon is at rest, just as you are at rest. It is a symbol of power that is never used in haste, a force that is contained within the silence of the soul. The tea ceremony, a universe and a bolt. To understand the samurai, one must also understand the tea ceremony. After the heat of the forge and the discipline of the code, the warrior retreats to a small, wooden hut. The door is low, requiring everyone to crawl through, a reminder that in the presence of tea, all are equal. The room is dim, lit only by a single sliver of moonlight. The only sound is the shi of the water boiling in the iron kettle. A sound the Japanese call the wind in the pines. Visualize the steam rising in slow, graceful spirals, disappearing into the thatched rafters. The tea master whisks the green matcha powder into the water. The sound is soft, rhythmic swish-wish-wishes, the only music in the world. When the bowl is handed to you, feel its warmth against your palms. It is earthy, rough-hewn, and perfect in its imperfection. This is wabi-sabi, the beauty of the weathered and the humble. As you take a sip, the bitterness of the tea grounds you, while the warmth spreads through your chest like a gentle glow. This is the samurai's true strength, the ability to find the entire universe within a single bowl of tea, to find total peace in the midst of a world that is always changing. Dissolving into the ink, the night is now at its peak. The samurai sits at a low desk, a brush in hand, and a stone of black ink before him. He is practicing calligraphy, the art of shodo. He moves the brush with the same focus he used with the sword and the tea whisk. Watch as the black ink flows onto the white paper, forming characters that are as strong as iron and as light as air. He writes of the falling blossoms, of the moon over the mountains, and of the path that has no end. The ink dries, slowly, becoming part of the paper. Just as these stories are becoming part of your mind, the world of the samurai is a world of layers, the silk of the court, the leather of the armor, the steel of the blade, and the ink of the poem. Each layer is a protection, a way of holding the silence of the universe within. The fire in the forge has gone out, leaving only a faint, warm scent of charcoal. The tea kettle has fallen silent, the ink is dry. The samurai has laid down his brush and closed his eyes. The mists are returning, thicker and softer than before, wrapping the temple, the forge, and the tea hut in a blanket of silver gray. You are drifting now, beyond the code and the craft, into the deep, dark water of the ancient Japanese night. The rhythm of the hammer is now the rhythm of your heart. The scent of the sandalwood is the scent of your dreams. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. The warrior's path has led you to the gate of sleep, and the gate is open. Step through, unhurried and safe, into the deep and the eternal. The scent of charcoal and heated steel from the forge begins to drift away, replaced by the sharp, invigorating temps of salt spray and the cool, rhythmic pulse of the Pacific Ocean. As we move into the 13th century, the center of the samurai world shifts from the refined gardens of Kyoto to the rugged, windswept coastal town of Kamakura. Imagine yourself standing on a high cliff overlooking the sea, the wind pulling at your silken robes as the sun begins its long, golden descent toward the horizon. The air here is different. It is heavier with moisture, carrying the ancient secrets of the deep water and the scent of damp cedar from the surrounding mountains. The sound of the world is now the sound of the Tita constant, hushing Shiham as the waves slide over the dark pebbles of the shore below. You are entering a time of great testing, a period where the samurai spirit is tempered not by the hammer of a smith, but by the relentless forces of nature and the arrival of a storm from across the sea. Visualize the town of Kamakura, a fortress carved into the hills. It is a place of narrow, protected paths and wooden gates that smell of aged timber and mountain rain. The architecture here is simpler than the palaces of the capital. It is functional, sturdy, and honest, reflecting the Zen-like discipline that has become the backbone of the warrior class. As you walk through the quiet streets at twilight, the only light comes from the stone lanterns that line the temple paths. Their small, orange flames flickering behind carved lattice. There is a deep, resonant sound in the air, the tolling of a great bronze bell from a distant monastery. Its vibration travels through the earth, a low and grounding frequency that settles in your chest and reminds you that you are anchored to this ancient soil. With every chime of the bell, feel your muscles relaxing further, sinking into the peaceful weight of the history that surrounds you. But as the years of the late 1200s unfold, a shadow begins to grow on the western horizon. Rumors arrive with the merchant ship's whispers of a great empire in the west, led by the Mongol ruler Kublai Khan, whose reach has already touched the edges of the known world. The samurai, who have spent centuries fighting amongst themselves in a ritualized dance of honor, now face an adversary that moves like a vast, unstoppable tide. Imagine the tension in the coastal villages of Kyushu as the first Mongol fleet appears on the horizon like a line of dark clouds. Thousands of ships, their sails catching the dying light of the sun, move slowly and inexorably toward the shore. The sound of the oars hitting the water is a rhythmic, hypnotic thud splash, a sound that echoes the heartbeat of a world about to change forever. As night falls over the bay, the samurai gather on the beaches, and atop the stone walls they have spent months building. These walls, the Genko Barui, are masterpieces of defensive architecture. Dark, heavy stones stacked with a precision that reflects the warrior's focus. Visualize yourself sitting atop one of these walls, the cold stone beneath you holding the lingering warmth of the day's sun. The world is bathed in a soft, monochromatic blue. To your left, the dark silhouette of the pine trees stands motionless against the stars. To your right, the vast expanse of the dark ocean stretches out into infinity. The only sound is the rhythmic breathing of the men around you and the distant, metallic jingle of horse harness. There is no fear here, only a state of machine, the mind without mind, a clarity that comes from knowing that one's fate is already written in the stars. The first invasion, the Bune War, begins not with a roar, but with a sudden, eerie silence as the wind dies down. The Mongol forces, with their thunderous drums and whistling arrows, represent a chaos the samurai have never seen. But as the fighting rages, nature itself begins to stir. Deep in the heart of the Pacific, a great pressure is building. The air becomes thick and humid, the sky turning a deep, bruised charcoal color. The waves, once gentle, begin to swell and crash against the stone walls with a new, primeval ferocity. Listen to the sound of the rising wind, a low, mournful howl that moves through the rigging of the ships and the branches of the trees. It is a warning, a hushing sound that tells the world to prepare for the arrival of the kamikaze, the divine wind, as the storm breaks. The narrative shifts into a dreamlike sequence of rain and shadow. The rain falls in thick silver sheets, washing away the dust of the battlefield and cooling the heated brows of the warriors. The Mongol ships, caught in the grip of the typhoon, are tossed like leaves on the surface of a boiling cauldron. The sound of the storm is absolute, a roaring, white noise symphony that drowns out all other thoughts. In the midst of this chaos, the samurai remain as still as the stones of their walls. They understand that they are part of a larger rhythm, a celestial order that uses the wind and the rain to protect the sacred islands. The storm is not an enemy. It is a cleansing force, a violent yet beautiful reminder of the power of the natural world. When the morning finally arrives, the storm has vanished as quickly as it came. The sky is a pale, washed-out blue, and the air is impossibly clean, carrying the scent of ozone and wet earth. The great fleet is gone, leaving behind only the rhythmic lapping of the waves against the shore. The samurai stand in the silence of the aftermath, their armor dripping with seawater, their eyes fixed on the empty horizon. The threat has passed, but the experience has changed the soul of Japan forever. It is in this profound silence that the samurai turn even more deeply toward Zen Buddhism. They seek a peace that can withstand any storm, a stillness that resides at the very center of the whirlwind. Imagine yourself now, retreating from the coast, moving back toward the quiet temples of Kamakura, as the era of the invasions fades into memory. The path is soft with fallen pine needles, and the air is filled with the scent of cedar and damp moss. You enter a Zen garden, a place of raked white gravel and unmoving stones. The gravel is arranged in ripples that mimic the waves of the sea. But here, the waves are frozen in time, eternally still and eternally perfect. Sit on the wooden veranda of the temple, the sun warming your back, and watch as a single hawk circles slowly in the high, clear sky. The movement of the hawk is the only movement in the world, a slow, effortless spiral that draws your eyes upward toward the infinite blue. The history of the Kamakura period is a history of endurance and the realization of the interconnectedness of all things. The warrior is the mountain, and the storm is the wind, and the sea is the spirit. As you listen to the rhythmic sound of the water falling into a stone basin, drip, drip, let the weight of the story pull you down into a state of total, unshakable rest. The mists are returning to the valleys, wrapping the stone walls and the coastal cliffs in a blanket of silver gray. The sound of the sea is now a distant whisper, a lullaby that has comforted the samurai for generations. The path has led you through the forge, through the code, and through the storm. And now it leads you to the final threshold of sleep. The history of the rising mist is your history now, a steady and peaceful rhythm that carries you away from the shore of the waking world. Your limbs are heavy, your mind is clear, and the islands are at peace. The stars are blinking slow and deep over the Pacific, and the wind has fallen to a soft, warm sigh. Everything is still. Everything is quiet. You are entering the deep, protected rest of the ancient way, where the journey ends and the dream begins. The echoes of the Kamakura bells and the howling winds of the Mongol storms begin to fade into the deeper, more complex shadows of the late 15th century. We are leaving the open coasts and the mist-covered mountains to enter a world defined by the soaring white walls and heavy timbered gates of the Sengoku Jidaieth, the age of warring states. Imagine the air around you shifting. It is no longer the salt-heavy breeze of the Pacific, but the dry, grounding scent of aged cypress, wood smoke, and the faint, metallic temps of iron armor cooling in the night. The sound of the world is no longer the roar of the ocean, but the rhythmic, hushing song of the cicadas in the castle groves and the muffled melodic creak of wooden floorboards. You are stepping into the heart of the daimyo sanctuary, a place where the art of war is held in a delicate, breathing balance with the pursuit of absolute, unshakable peace. Visualize the approach to a great fortress like Himeji, the White Heron. It stands atop a high hill, its multiple tiers of white plastered walls glowing softly under the light of a charcoal gray moon. The structure looks less like a building and more like a mountain made of silk and stone, perched elegantly against the starlit sky. As you pass through the heavy, iron-studded gates, notice the sound of the world being locked away behind you. The outside world, with its chaos and its distances, has ceased to exist. Inside these walls, time slows down to a crawl. The ground beneath your feet is made of smooth, gray stones that have been swept clean of every leaf and twig, creating a sense of order that settles deep within your spirit. Every step you take is a transition deeper into a realm of architectural protection, a labyrinth designed to confuse the enemy, but to cradle the inhabitant in a sense of absolute security. You are walking through a long, wooden corridor, where the only light comes from the moon filtering through the high, narrow windows. This is the nightingale floor, the yugisu. Listen to the sound your feet make as you move. It is a soft, rhythmic chirping, a deliberate architectural melody designed to sing like a bird at the slightest pressure. Each tweet-tweet of the floorboards is a grounding vibration, a musical anchor that keeps you in the present moment. It is a sound that has comforted governors and guards for centuries, a sign that the silence of the castle is alive and watchful. The walls around you are made of massive cedar beams and sliding paper screens, shoji, through which the moonlight filters in a soft, diffused glow. Everything in this space is designed to be quiet, minimal, and intentional. The wood itself seems to breathe, releasing the warm, resinous scent of the forest that was harvested centuries ago to build these soaring towers. Inside the inner sanctum, the atmosphere is one of profound, candlelit intimacy. There are no harsh lights here, only the soft, orange flicker of oil lamps, and heavy wax candles made from the sumac tree. This lighting creates a world of deep shadows and soft edges, a space where the eyes can finally relax and the mind can let go of the sharp definitions of the day. The floor is covered in fresh tatami mats, which release a faint, herbal scent of dried grass and earthen aroma that acts as a natural signal for the body to let go of its tension. In the center of the room, the samurai's armor is laid out on a lacquered stand. It is a complex assembly of silk cords, iron scales, and a mask that looks like a fierce demon, but in this light, it is just a silent companion, a witness to the stillness. The armor is not a weapon tonight. It is a memory, a shell of protection that allows the soul inside to remain soft and unburdened. The red silk laces and the black lacquer scales catch the flickering light, shimmering like the scales of a sleeping dragon. The samurai sits in the center of the room, practicing the art of zazen. His movements are non-existent. He is a vessel of pure breath. Listen to his breathing, slow, deep, and rhythmic. Inhale, exhale. The sound is like the wind moving through the distant pines on the castle slopes. As you watch him, feel your own breathing sync with his. The weight of your day, the miles of the journey, and the noise of the century are all dissolving into the flickering shadows on the cedar walls. There is only the warmth of the lamp, the scent of the tatami, and the steady, ancient pulse of the castle's heart. Even in an age of 1,000 wars, this room is a sanctuary of absolute peace. The discipline required to lead an army is here transformed into the discipline required to be perfectly still. He is not preparing for a battle of swords, but for the mastery of the self, a quiet conquest that takes place in the silence between heartbeats. Move your awareness to the small alcove in the corner of the room. Here, a single hanging scroll depicts a misty mountain peak, and a simple ceramic vase holds a single branch of flowering plum. This is the philosophy of the Sengoku era, the realization that beauty is most profound when it is solitary and fleeting. The plum blossom, white as snow against the dark wood of the alcove, is a reminder that life continues to bloom even in the shadow of the fortress walls. The scent of the blossom is faint, a delicate floral note that cuts through the earthy smell of the mats and the wood. It is a scent that brings a sense of lightness to your chest, a feeling of being unmoored from the gravity of the world. Outside, the castle's moat is a dark, unmoving mirror. The water is so still that the stars look like they are floating on its surface, as if the sky and the earth have traded places. A single frog croaks in the reeds, a sharp, lonely sound that only serves to emphasize the profound silence that follows. The great wooden beams of the castle groan occasionally a deep, wooden sound like a giant, settling into a long sleep. It is a comforting sound, a reminder of the strength and the history that surrounds you. You are safe here, tucked away in the highest tower, protected by layers of stone, timber, and the unshakable honor of the house. The night watchman makes his rounds far below, the rhythmic clack-clack of his wooden blocks echoing softly through the courtyard, a signal that all is well, that the gates are barred, and the night belongs to the dreamers. As the early morning hours approach, the darkness becomes a velvet blanket, a soft and heavy weight that invites the soul to surrender. The mists are rising from the plains below, swirling around the base of the fortress, until the entire castle looks like it is floating on a silver sea. The path of the warrior has led you through the fire and the forge, through the code and the storm, and now it brings you to the silent, protected dream of the shogun's fortress. The rhythmic chirping of the nightingale floor has ceased. The samurai has closed his eyes, laying aside his brush and his thoughts. The world is so quiet now, so perfectly still, that you can almost hear the falling of the dew on the moss in the garden below. The weight of the stone walls is now the weight of your own peaceful rest. The darkness is not an end, but a sanctuary, a place where the history of the samurai finally gives way to the eternal peace of the night. Every timber in this castle has a story, every stone has a memory, and they are all breathing together in a slow, rhythmic harmony. Breathe in the scent of the cedar, breathe out the last of the world's noise, and let the history of the samurai carry you into the deep, protected rest of the ancient night. You are entering a sleep that is as enduring as the fortress itself, a sleep guarded by the stars and the silent white walls of the rising mist. The shadows stretch long and soft across the floor, and the flicker of the last candle dies down to a warm, golden ember. Everything is still, everything is quiet. The journey is complete, and the rest is total. The heavy iron-studded gates of the Sengoku fortresses begin to recede into the distant, flickering shadows of memory, and the air around you changes once more, becoming lighter, cooler, and filled with the profound, ancient scent of damp moss and sun-warmed cedar. We are moving away from the halls of stone and timber, away from the strategic maps and the restless energy of the castle, and stepping onto the winding, moss-covered paths that lead to the secluded mountain temples of the Zen masters. This is a journey toward the center of the samurai's internal world, a world where the strength of the blade is finally surrendered to the strength of the silence. Imagine yourself walking up a long flight of stone stairs, each step hand-carved and worn smooth by the passage of centuries and the footsteps of countless pilgrims seeking the same peace you seek tonight. The stairs are flanked by giant, towering cedar trees whose tops are lost in a silver evening mist, their branches heavy with the weight of the mountain's secrets. The only sound is the rhythmic, hollow clack, thud of a shishio-doshi, the bamboo water pipe in a hidden garden somewhere below. As it slowly fills with a mountain stream and strikes a stone basin in a cycle that feels as old as the earth itself. This sound is the heartbeat of the temple, a constant, grounding reminder of the beauty found in the passage of time and the absolute importance of the present moment. As you reach the final step, you stand before a gateway of dark, unpainted wood, weathered by the wind and the rain until it has taken on the texture of a silver-gray cloud. Step through this threshold and feel the transition in your very spirit. You have entered the realm of the Master's Temple, a sanctuary of Zen where every grain of sand and every shadow is an invitation to let go of the self. Before you lies a karasen-sui, a dry landscape garden that represents the entire universe within a few square yards of earth. There are no flowers here, no lush greenery to distract the eye. There is only a vast sea of fine white gravel, raked with meticulous precision into perfect, concentric ripples that mimic the waves of an eternal ocean. In the center of this sea, a few carefully placed stones rise like ancient islands or mountain peaks emerging from a blanket of clouds. Visualize the moonlight as it hits the white sand, making it glow with a soft, celestial light that illuminates the garden without creating harsh glares. The samurai would sit for hours on the wooden veranda, their backs against the cedar pillars, watching the play of shadows across this garden as the moon moved across the sky. They saw in these stones the permanence of the mountains, and in the raked sand, the fluid, ever-changing nature of the mind. As you look at the garden in your mind's eye, feel your own thoughts settling like the dust after a summer rain. The raked lines of the gravel provide a structure for your focus, a path that leads nowhere and everywhere at once, allowing your mind to drift like a boat on a silent sea. Move deeper into the temple complex, walking along the wooden verandas that connect the various pavilions. The wood beneath your feet is cool and smooth, polished by the sliding of silk socks over hundreds of years. The air is thick with the scent of kodo, the ancient incense ceremony, often referred to as listening to the incense. This is a ritual of profound sensory focus, where the samurai learned to perceive the subtle voice of the fragrance rather than simply smelling it. Imagine a small ceramic burner resting on a low table, filled with pure white ash. A tiny glowing coal beneath the surface releases a thread of smoke from a piece of rare agar wood smoke, so thin and delicate it is almost invisible as it spirals toward the dark, heavy rafters. The scent is deep, woody, and ancient, carrying notes of earth, spice, and the profound solitude of the deep forest. It is a fragrance that seems to bypass the rational mind and speak directly to the soul, grounding you in the unshakable weight of the mountain. With every breath of this incense, feel your body becoming lighter and more transparent, as if you are becoming part of the smoke itself, drifting upward, away from the concerns of the waking world, and into the high, quiet reaches of the temple roof. In the center of the main hall, the shadows are deep and protective. A single oil lamp flickers in a corner, casting long, rhythmic shadows that dance against the paper walls. Here, a samurai might sit to watch a no performance, the theater of ghosts, memories, and the spaces between things. Visualize an actor wearing a lacquered wooden mask, its surface so perfectly carved that it appears to change expression with the slightest tilt of the head, moving from deep sorrow to a haunting, ethereal joy. The actor moves with a sliding gait, his heavy silk robes rustling like the dry leaves of an oak tree in late autumn. The music is sparse and hollow, a single bamboo flute, the shakuhachi, and the sharp, rhythmic strike of a drum that echoes through the silent hall. The sound is haunting, a melody of mada, concept of negative space. The silence between the notes is as important, as resonant, as the notes themselves. Listen to the hollow, wind-like sound of the flute. It is the sound of the mountain wind moving through a cave, a sound that has no beginning and no end. Let this hollow music enter your own mind, filling the spaces between your thoughts with a cool, silver light. Find the ma in your own spirit, the vast, quiet space where there is no worry, no noise, and no haste. The temple is not merely a place of prayer. It is a world of refined aesthetics, where the samurai sought the beauty of the wabi-sabi, the appreciation of the weathered, the humble, and the imperfect. Think of a ceramic tea bowl, irregular in shape and covered in a glaze that has cracked and aged over time. To the samurai, this bowl was more beautiful than any piece of polished gold, for it carried the story of its own existence. It reminded them that life is fragile, and that there is a profound dignity in things that have endured. As you visualize this bowl, feel a similar sense of dignity in your own rest. Your fatigue is not a burden, but a sign of a life lived, a journey undertaken. Like the tea bowl, you are at peace in your own skin, resting in the quiet sanctuary of the night. The temple garden is now entirely still. The bamboo pipe has fallen silent as the stream slows to a trickle, and the mountain is shrouded in a blanket of absolute, velvet darkness. The history of the Master's Temple is a history of the inner landscape, a journey through the gardens of the mind where the only task is to be still. You are safe here, protected by the thousands of meditations that have been performed in these halls and the thousands of stars that watch over the mountain peaks. The air is cold and kind, the wood is warm and protective, and the night is deep. Breathe in the mountain mist, breathe out the last of the world's noise, and let the rhythmic silence of the Zen garden carry you into the deep, protected rest of the ancient way. Every stone is an anchor, every grain of sand is a dream, and the temple is a fortress of peace that will hold you until the morning light. The incense is burned down to a single, glowing ember, and the shadows have stretched across the floor until the world is one, unified dark. Sleep now, for the temple is quiet, and the Master of the Silence has invited you to stay. The mountain mists of the Zen temples begin to drift even lower, settling into the moss-covered valleys where the hidden tea-houses wait in the silver twilight. We are stepping away from the vast halls of the Masters and entering a space of profound, focused intimacy, the world of Chinoil, the way of tea. Imagine yourself walking along a narrow, winding path made of irregular stones, the Roji, or dewy path. This path is designed to be a transition, a psychological bridge intended to shed the dust of the world before entering the sacred space of the tea room. The stones beneath your feet are cool and damp, and the air is thick with the scent of wet earth, ferns, and the deep, resinous aroma of cedar. The only sound is the rhythmic, distant drip, drip of water from a stone basin, a sound that marks the slow, steady heartbeat of the evening. Every step you take on this path is a step further away from the noise of history, a step deeper into a sanctuary where time is measured only by the simmering of a kettle and the beating of a heart in total repose. As you move along the Roji, the foliage closes in around you, creating a tunnel of emerald and charcoal shadows. The ferns brush against your silk robes with a sound like a whispered secret. To your left, a stone lantern, the Ishidoro, glows with a soft orange light, its flame flickering behind a carved lattice. This light does not seek to banish the darkness, but rather to celebrate it, casting long, peaceful shadows that dance across the moss. You reach the sukubai, the stone wash basin. The water inside is as clear as a mountain spring, reflecting the first faint stars of the evening. You take the long-handled bamboo ladle, the hishaku, and pour the cool water over your hands. Feel the temperature sharp and invigorating, washing away the last remnants of the day's fatigue. The sound of the water hitting the stones below is a clean, splashing melody that clears the mind of all debris. The tea house appears before you like a small, humble hut made of timber and thatch, blending so perfectly with the surrounding bamboo and pine that it seems to have grown out of the earth itself. There is no gold here, no grand carvings, only the honest beauty of the natural world. To enter, you must bend low through a small, square, Dorthani Jiraguchi. This architectural choice is a profound lesson in humility. It requires every samurai, no matter how high his rank or how legendary his name, to bow his head and enter as a simple human being. As you crawl through this threshold, feel the weight of your status and the burden of your sword arm dissolve. You are entering a floating world of peace, where the only thing that matters is the quality of the light and the warmth of the steam. The room inside is small, perhaps only 4.5 tatami mats in size, creating a sense of safe, protective enclosure that wraps around you like a soft, woolen blanket. The walls are made of earth-colored plaster, and the light is filtered through paper screens into a soft, monochromatic gray that invites the eyes to close and the mind to rest. The scent of the room is a complex tapestry of dried straw, aged wood, and a hint of charcoal smoke. In the corner, the tokonoma alcove holds a single scroll of calligraphy, the ink flowing like a dark river across the pale paper. Beside it, a single flower in a bamboo vase leans toward the light, its petals holding a single drop of dew. This is the heart of the ceremony, the appreciation of the singular, the fleeting, and the quiet. Listen to the sound of the water boiling in the heavy iron kettle. The kama. In Japan, this sound is celebrated as the wind in the pines, a constant, white noise hiss that mimics the sound of a gentle breeze moving through an ancient forest. It is a sound that has no beginning and no end, a liquid lullaby that anchors you to the present moment. The tea master moves with a grace that is almost invisible, every gesture refined by years of repetition. There is no haste, no wasted motion. He takes a silk clotha. Fukasan wipes the tea caddy and the scoop with a rhythmic grace. The sound of the silk moving against the lacquer is a soft, dry whisper, a sound that speaks of care and devotion. Then, he takes the bamboo whisk, the chasen, and the green matcha powder. As he whisks the tea into a froth, the sound a rapid, rhythmic swish-wish-wish becomes the only music in the world. It is a sound that clears the mind of all debris, leaving behind only the pure, green essence of the tea and the warmth of the fire. Every movement of the master's hands is a prayer in motion, a testament to the belief that peace can be found in the most mundane of actions. The steam rises from the bowl in slow, graceful spirals, disappearing into the thatched rafters above, carrying with it the earthy, vegetal aroma of the mountains. When the tea bowl is finally placed before you, look at it with the eyes of a traveler who has reached the end of a long road. The bowl is not a perfect, factory-made object. It is wabi-sabi, might be slightly lopsided, its glaze may have a crack, its surface might be as rough as a mountain stone. This imperfection is its greatest beauty, for it reflects the reality of life itself. Feel the warmth of the bowl against your palms, a heat that seeps through your skin and relaxes your nerves, warming your chest and stilling your spirit. The scent of the matcha rises in a slow, fragrant cloud, a smell of fresh grass, of the earth in spring, and of a deep, nourishing peace. As you take your first sip, let the bitterness ground you, and the sweetness that follows lift you into a state of total, effortless suspension. In this small wooden room, the entire universe is reduced to a single bowl of tea, a single breath, and a single moment of absolute, protected silence. The shadows in the corners of the room are long and soft. The steam from the kettle vanishes into the rafters, and the world outside the tea house is nothing more than a faint, distant memory. The master sits across from you, his presence a steady, unmoving anchor. In this space, you are not a warrior or a lord. You are simply a guest of the moment. The darkness of the evening has now become absolute. The only light comes from a single charcoal ember glowing in the hearth, a tiny orange sun in the center of the night. The master has finished his work, and he sits with you in a state of shared, unspoken tranquility. The path of tea is a path toward the realization that everything we need is already here, in the simple acts of breathing, watching, and being. You are safe in this hut of cedar and straw, protected by the thousands of rituals that have been performed here and the ancient spirit of the way. The mountain wind may howl outside, and the tides of history may continue to turn, but inside this space, everything is still. The history of the samurai has brought you to this bowl, and this bowl has brought you to the gate of a deep and restorative sleep. The Roji path you walked is now a distant thought. The swords of the Sengoku are echoes of another life, and the Zen stones of the temple are part of the vast, dark mountain. Your eyelids are heavy, your breath is slow, and the warmth of the tea has settled in your core like a glowing ember. Breathe in the scent of the steam, breathe out the last of the world's noise, and let the rhythmic hiss of the wind in the pines carry you away, unhurried and peaceful, into the deep, dark water of the eternal rest. The night is long, the tea is finished, and the silence is your sanctuary. The intimacy of the tea house, with its scent of matcha, and the soft white noise hiss of the simmering kettle, begins to dissolve into the vast, cool expanse of the Japanese interior. We are stepping out from the hidden valleys and onto the great stone-paved arteries of the shogunate, the Nakasendo, and the Tokaido. This is the era of the Senkan Katai, the alternate attendants, a time when the high lords of the provinces were required to travel hundreds of miles across the spine of Japan to the rising city of Edo. Imagine yourself standing on a high mountain pass at midnight, perhaps near the village of Magome, the Kiso Valley spreading out beneath you like a sea of silver mist. The air here is thin, sharp, and carries the invigorating scent of cold mountain dew and ancient cedar resin. Far below, a line of flickering light begins to move, a rhythmic, glowing serpent of paper lanterns winding through the dark pines. This is the daimyo's procession, a journey of hundreds of souls moving in a state of quiet, disciplined harmony through the heart of the night. Visualize the road beneath your feet. The Nakasendo is a path of heavy, weathered stones and towering forests where the trees have stood for 500 years. You are part of this great movement, walking in the center of a column of warriors. The world around you is a study in monochromatic beauty, deep indigos, charcoal grays, and the brilliant, celestial silver of a moon that hangs heavy over the volcanic ridges. The only light comes from the chokin, the paper lanterns carried by the scouts. These lanterns cast a warm rhythmic glow on the dark silk robes of the samurai ahead of you, creating a pulsing light that guides every step you take. Listen to the sound of the road. It is a symphony of soft, repetitive textures. There is the steady, hypnotic crunch 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 of straw sandals, the waraji pressing into the fine mountain gravel. There is the rhythmic, wooden thud of the travel staffs hitting the earth in perfect, effortless synchronization. There is the faint, musical jingle of a horse's harness in the distance, a silver sound that carries through the still, cold air like a distant chime. There is no talking in this procession. Every man moves in a state of meditation and motion, his breath synchronized with the pace of the group. As you walk, feel the rhythmic swaying of your own body, a gentle, side-to-side motion that mimics the movement of a boat on a calm, dark sea. Your eyes are fixed on the back of the warrior in front of you, the patterns of his robes moving in a steady, predictable rhythm that pulls your focus away from the world and into a state of total presence. This visual repetition is a gateway to a deeper calm. The mountains around you act as silent, towering guardians. Their peaks touching the stars, and their deep valleys holding the silence of the ages. You are not just traveling through a landscape. You are becoming part of the landscape itself, a shadow moving among shadows, a point of light in an infinite, protective dark. In the center of the procession is the daimyo's palanquin, a masterpiece of black lacquer and gold leaf that glows like a jewel in the lantern light. It is carried by 4 strong men whose footsteps are so perfectly timed they sound like a single heart beating in the darkness. Inside, the lord of the province is seated in a sanctuary of silk and shadow, his presence an unmoving anchor for the hundreds of men around him, as the palanquin sways gently on its long cedar poles. The wood makes a soft, rhythmic creak-a sound, like an ancient tree swaying in a mountain breeze. This sound, creak, 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 is the constant accompaniment to the knight's journey. It is a grounding sound that tells you the center is holding, the journey is proceeding, and the order of the world is intact as the procession climbs higher into the pass. The wind begins to pick up, a low, hushing sound that moves through the tops of the giant cedars. It carries the scent of distant snow and wet moss, a clean, sharp aroma that clears your mind of all remaining tension. The stars above are so bright and so numerous they seem to vibrate in the cold, thin air. You look up and see the Milky Way, the Silver River, flowing across the sky in a direct mirror of the road you are walking below. For a moment, the boundaries between the earth and the heavens seem to dissolve into a single, glowing path. You are moving through a world that is ancient, stable, and perfectly ordered. Imagine the details of the roadside. You pass by a small stone shrine, a hakora, tucked into the roots of a massive pine tree. A single candle burns inside, protected from the wind by a small wooden screen. The scent of wild mountain flowers, wild lilies, and mountain plum drifts toward you in the cool air. A delicate floral note that contrasts with the earthy smell of the road. Every sensory detail is a point of focus, a way to anchor yourself in the beauty of the journey. The rhythmic breathing of the men around you, the steady pace of the horses, and the constant, soft light of the lanterns all work together to create a state of profound, waking rest. The road begins to descend now, winding down toward Ashukuba, a post station nestled in the safety of the valley. You can see the lights of the village bellow soft, flickering ambers that promise warmth, salt-scented baths, and the comfort of the hearth. The pace of the procession does not change. It remains steady, relentless, and peaceful. As you enter the village, the stone-paved streets echo with the rhythmic clack-clack of the night watchman, welcoming the weary travelers home. You arrive at the Hanjin, the high class and reserved for the samurai. The gates are made of heavy, dark timber, and they open with a slow, welcoming groan that speaks of centuries of hospitality inside the inn. The air is warm and smells of cedar wood and simmering rice. You step out of your straw sandals and onto the polished wooden floors, the cool, smooth surface providing a final, grounding sensation to your feet. The journey of the Nakasendo for this night is complete. You are led to a small room with paper walls and a single silk futon laid out on the tatami mats. The window is open just a crack, allowing the sound of a mountain stream outside to fill the room with a constant, white noise hiss as you lie down. The rhythmic crunch of the gravel and the creak of the palanquin still echo faintly in your mind, a fading, melodic lullaby that leads you away from the road and into the deep, dark valley of sleep. The mountains are watching, the lanterns are out, and the great peace of the road is now your own. Every step you took has brought you to this moment of absolute, protected rest. You are safe. You are held by the earth, and the stars of the Nakasendo will shine over you until the morning light. The journey of the day has ended, and the journey of the night has begun. Let the sound of the wind in the cedars be the last thing you hear as the world fades away. The mists are closing in, wrapping the village, the inn, and the road in a blanket of silver and shadow. You are entering a sleep as deep as the Kiso Valley, a sleep as steady as the stones of the road, and a sleep as silent as the mountain stars. As we leave the flickering ambers of the Nakasendo post stations and the rhythmic crunch of the gravel roads behind, the path beneath your feet begins to soften, transforming into a thick, ancient carpet of emerald moss and damp pine needles. We are moving away from the world of men, away from the structured order of the shogunate, and into the breathing, primal heart of the Japanese wilderness. Imagine yourself stepping into a realm where the boundaries between the physical earth and the spiritual world of the kami begin to blur into a single, silver-gray mist that clings to the roots of the trees like a living shroud. In the history of the samurai, the forest was never merely a source of timber or a place for concealment. It was a living cathedral, a sacred sanctuary where the spirits of the wind, the stone, and the cedar held eternal court, far above the concerns of the mortal world. As you walk deeper into this darkness, feel the air around you becoming noticeably cooler, heavier with the invigorating scent of damp earth, silver fir, and the sharp, clean aroma of mountain ozone that signals the presence of a higher power. The trees here are giants' thousand-year-old cryptomeria, the sacred sugi, that rise like living pillars toward the stars, their massive trunks wider than a man can reach, their tops lost in a swirling canopy of dark needles and moonlight that filters down in long, ghostly shafts. Listen to the vast, hushing silence of the woods. It is not an empty silence, but a profound and textured stillness, a symphony of the unseen. The sound of the world you knew is swallowed by the depth of the forest. The wind moving through the high branches far above makes a sound like the rushing of a distant, celestial river, a low and steady vibration that travels through the heavy air and into the very ground beneath your feet. It is a rhythmic, hushing sound that tells the story of the mountain's breath, a sound that has remained unchanged since the first samurai sought refuge in these valleys. Every step you take is a meditation. Your straw sandals make no sound on the moss, giving you the sensation of floating through the undergrowth. You are a guest in a house that does not belong to you, a visitor to a realm where the trees are the elders and the stones are the witnesses. Visualize the textures of the forest, the rough vertically striated bark of the cedars, the soft and yielding moisture of the moss, and the cold, smooth surface of the stones that have been polished by 1,000 years of mountain rain. You come upon a torii gate, standing solitary and silent in a small clearing where the moonlight falls in a perfect, circular pool of silver. It is made of massive hand-hewn cedar logs, painted in a vermilion that has faded to a soft, earthy rose under the relentless touch of centuries of sun, wind, and winter snow. This is the portal, the gateway between the profane world of struggle you have left behind and the sacred world of the spirits. As you pass beneath the crossbar, feel a physical sensation of transition, a lightness in your limbs, a settling of your breath, and a quietening of your mind. You are now within the Shiniki, the sacred precinct of the kami, in the Shinto belief of the samurai. Every mountain peak, every hidden waterfall, and every ancient gnarled tree possesses a divine essence that must be honored with absolute silence and profound respect. The forest is not empty. It is crowded with the quiet, benevolent presence of the eternal, following a trail of small, moss-covered stone lanterns. The Kasugadoro, you see the faint, inner glow of the spirits within the stone, as if the lanterns themselves are breathing in sync with the forest's slow, deep rhythm. You arrive at a hidden shrine nestled against the base of a jagged, black cliff that seems to touch the very edge of the Milky Way. The shrine is a simple, honest structure of unpainted wood, with a roof of thick, dark thatch made of hinoki bark. It sits in a state of perfect, unmoving tranquility, looking as though it were not built by human hands, but grown directly from the rock. Beside the entrance, a mountain stream pours from a hollowed bamboo pipe into a deep stone basin, the tsukaba. The sound of the water is a rhythmic, hypnotic splashing, a liquid melody that mirrors the steady, peaceful beating of your own heart. Visualize yourself taking the wooden ladle and pouring the icy water over your hands. The cold is a grounding force, a sharp and beautiful reminder of the vitality of the natural world, washing away the last traces of the journey's dust. The water is clear and pure, carrying the essence of the mountain heights down into the valley, and as you pour it, the sound splash, drip, splash becomes the only rhythm in your universe. The forest at night is alive with a subtle, glowing energy that does not demand your attention, but simply invites you to exist within it. You see the pale, ghost-like flicker of the moon reflecting off the white paper of the shrine's shide, the zigzag streamers that mark the boundary of the divine. These streamers flutter softly, almost imperceptibly, in the night breeze, making a dry, whispering sound like the pages of an ancient book being turned by an unseen hand. This is the breath of the kami, a gentle, hushing reminder that you are protected, that you are held in the gaze of an ancient and benevolent power. Sit on the wooden steps of the shrine, which are cool and seasoned by the years. Look back into the dark cathedral of the trees. The shadows here are deep and textured, hiding the kodama, the spirits of the trees, who watch over the forest with a silent emerald-dyed wisdom. The air is so still that you can hear the soft, muffled thud of a pinecone falling onto the moss, a sound that echoes through the trees like a soft drumbeat in a grand, empty hall. It is a sound of completion, of the forest tending to itself in this high, sacred space. The samurai found a peace that no fortress or palace could ever provide. They understood that the way of the warrior was ultimately about achieving a harmony between the spirit and the universe. Every movement of the wind, every rustle of the leaves, and every shift in the mountain mist was seen as a lesson in the impermanence of the self and the endurance of the soul. As you rest here, let the ancient energy of the whispering woods wrap around you like a heavy, silken cloak of indigo and silver. The trees are your guardians, their massive roots anchoring you to the earth. The wind is your lullaby, its steady rush through the needles quieting your thoughts. And the mountain is your sanctuary, a place where time has no meaning. There is no urgency in the forest, no deadlines, no noise, and no haste. There is only the steady, eternal rhythm of the earth, breathing in its deep, restorative sleep. The mists are rising from the forest floor, swirling around the base of the torii gate and the stone lanterns, until the world becomes a soft, monochromatic dream of silver and shadow. The details of the physical world begin to dissolve: the bark of the trees, the shape of the shrine, the line of the cliff fall melting into a single, unified dark. Every breath you take is filled with the ancient peace of the Shinto spirits, a cool and refreshing draft that settles in your chest like a glowing ember. You are sinking deeper into the moss, becoming part of the mountain, part of the wind, and part of the silence. The history of the samurai has brought you to this sacred grove, and the grove is now inviting you to surrender to the night. The journey from the early mists of the Heian courts, through the fires of the Sengoku wars, and along the long roads of the shogunate, has led to this final, spiritual destination. It is a destination of the spirit, a place where the noise of history fades into the eternal whisper of the trees. The stars are blinking slow and deep above the canopy. The lanterns are dimming to a soft, golden amber glow, and the forest is folding itself around you in a gesture of absolute, unshakable peace. You are safe in the hands of the kami. You are home in the heart of the wilderness. You are at rest in the silence of the sugi. Breathe in the scent of the cedar. Breathe out the last of the world's noise, and let the spirits of the woods carry you away into the deep, protected rest of the ancient world. The night is long, the mountain is still, and the dream of the forest is now your own. As the silence deepens, imagine the kodama moving through the branches. They're small, glowing forms like fireflies that never fade. They are the guardians of your sleep, the keepers of the forest's memory. The sound of the mountain stream continues, its steady, liquid rhythm, a constant reminder that life flows on. even in the depths of the night. You are drifting now, away from the shore of the waking world, moving into a sea of shadow where the only light is the internal glow of your own peace. The history of Japan, the history of the samurai, and the history of the rising mist are all one, and they are all leading you to this moment of total, effortless surrender. The world is quiet. The forest is still. You are entering the deep and the eternal. The mountain mists and the deep, resinous scent of the whispering woods begin to fade into a memory, replaced by a new, sharp, and invigorating fragrance that carries the ancient secrets of the deep water. We are descending from the high, sacred peaks, moving down through the narrow ravines where the mountain streams become rivers, and moving toward the very edge of the world, the jagged silver-lined coastlines of the Pacific. This transition marks a profound shift in our journey, moving from the vertical stillness of the mountains to the horizontal infinity of the sea. Imagine yourself standing on a high grassy dune as the midnight sun bathes the shore in a pale indigo light. The air here is noticeably different. It is heavy with the scent of salt, damp seaweed, and the clean mineral aroma of wet sand. This is the harbor of dreams, a realm where the history of the samurai meets the eternal, rhythmic power of the sea. In this chapter, the rigid discipline of the castle and the silent meditation of the temple dissolve into the vast, fluid heartbeat of the ocean. As you descend the final rocky path toward the coast, the ground beneath your feet changes. The soft, giving moss of the high forests is replaced by a mixture of packed earth, dark volcanic sand, and the fine white powder of crushed seashells. Every step you take makes a soft, rhythmic crunch, a sound that is quickly swallowed by the immense, rolling roar of the Pacific. Visualize a small, secluded fishing village nestled in a rocky cove. The houses are low, sturdy structures of weathered cedar and dark stone, built to withstand the salt-heavy gales of the winter months. Their roofs are weighted down with large, smooth river boulders to keep the thatch in place against the wind. As you walk through the single, narrow street, the moonlight catches the silver glint of fish scales dried into the wood of the piers. The air is cool, carrying the moisture of the spray and the distant, smoky aroma of a kelp fire burning on the beach. The sound of the sea is the dominant force, Hera constant, relentless, and deeply hypnotic crush and hiss as the waves slide over the dark pebbles. This is the ultimate white noise, a sound that has no beginning and no end. Every wave that breaks is a release of ancient energy, and every hiss as the water recedes into the deep is a call to a deeper state of rest. Listen to that rhythm in your mind. Hiss, crush, hiss. It is a sound that has remained unchanged for eons, a sound that has lulled countless generations of warriors, poets, and fishermen into a sleep without dreams. Feel the vibration of the ocean in your own chest, a steady, grounding pulse that synchronizes your heartbeat with the turning of the tides. Every wave pulls a little more of the day's weight away from you. Every receding hiss carries your worries out into the deep, dark water, where they disappear into the infinite. You approach a solitary coastal villa, a besso perched on a low cliff overlooking the water. This is a place of retreat, a sanctuary built of dark cypress and white plaster that glows like a pearl in the indigo night. As you step onto the wooden veranda, the ingawa, the wood, feels cool and seasoned beneath you. The architecture here is open and light, designed to invite the sea breeze to move through the rooms. Imagine a samurai sitting here in the total silence of the night. He has laid aside the heavy silks of the capital and the iron plates of the battlefield, wearing only a simple, indigo-dyed cotton kimono that has been softened by the salt air. Beside him, a single stone lantern, an okidoro, glows with a soft amber flame. Its light reflects off the smooth, wet stones of a sand garden, where the ridges have been raked to look like the waves of the sea, a frozen ocean beside the real one. The wind here is a constant companion, a soft and steady pressure against your skin. It carries the coolness of the deep Pacific, a chill that makes the warmth of the villa's interior feel even more inviting. The sound of the wind through the dune grass is a dry, whispering she, a sound that mimics the waves. To your left, a group of wind-swept pines, their trunks twisted into fantastic shapes by years of salt-laden gales, stand like silent guardians of the coast. Their needles make a soft, hushing sound as the breeze passes through them, adding another layer to the symphony of the night. You are surrounded by a world that is breathing, moving, and resting all at once. Look out toward the distant, dark horizon. Far out at sea, the flickering lights of the fishing boats, the Isarebi, bob and sway with the movement of the tide. These fires, intended to lure the silver fish to the surface, look like a second constellation of stars that have fallen from the sky and are now floating on the black water. The ocean is a vast, dark mirror, reflecting the Milky Way in its depths, until the boundary between the heavens and the earth disappears entirely. You are a silent observer of this infinite space, a shadow sitting at the edge of the world, perfectly safe and perfectly at rest. The sky is a deep, bruised purple, and the stars are so bright they seem to vibrate in the cold air. The Milky Way stretches across the zenith like a path of silver dust, a celestial road that leads into the heart of the night. The sensory details of the coast are thick and immersive. You can hear the rhythmic clack-slap of the wooden boats bumping against the stone pier in the harbor below. You can hear the soft, dry rustle of the heavy hemp fishing nets drying on their wooden racks. The scent of the ocean is complex and grounding, a mix of iodine, salt, cold, wet stone, and the faint sweetness of the coastal lilies that bloom only in the dark. Every breath you take is a cleansing draft of the wild, untamed sea. As the tide begins to come in, the sound of the waves grows deeper and more resonant. The water is reclaiming the shore, washing away the footprints of the day, smoothing the sand into an untarnished surface. This is the ultimate metaphor for your own rest. The tide of sleep is coming in, a great, slow, and benevolent force that is washing away the noise, the memory, and the tension of the waking world. The mists are beginning to rise from the surface of the water now, swirling around the base of the cliff and moving through the twisted pines until the world becomes a soft, monochromatic dream of indigo, silver, and charcoal. Every breath you take is filled with the clean, salt-scented peace of the harbor. You are drifting now, away from the shore of history, away from the path of the sword, and into the deep, dark, and restorative water of the night. The stars are blinking slow and deep over the waves, the lanterns are dimming to a soft, golden glow, and the ocean is folding itself around you in a gesture of absolute, unshakable peace. Imagine the samurai finally closing his eyes, his breath becoming as slow and as rhythmic as the waves. He is no longer a warrior. He is the shore, he is the wind, he is the water. The history of Japan, the stories of the clans, and the echoes of the battles are all dissolving into the white noise of the tide. You are following him into that silence. The villa is a fortress of peace, the sea is a lullaby of eternity, and the night is your sanctuary. The wooden pillars of the veranda groan softly in the wind, a deep and comforting sound that speaks of stability and age. The light of the lantern flickers and then settles, casting long, peaceful shadows across the tatami mats. You are sinking deeper into the soft cushions of the moment. Your limbs are heavy, your mind is clear, and the sound of the ocean is the only thing that remains. Crush hiss, crush hiss. The tide is high now, the water is deep, and the world is at peace. Breathe in the scent of the salt, breathe out the last of the world's noise, and let the rhythmic song of the harbor of dreams carry you away into the deep and the eternal. The water is still, the wind is a sigh, and you are finally, truly, at rest. The rhythmic pulse of the Pacific tide and the salt-heavy air of the harbor begin to fall away, receding into a soft blue memory as we turn our gaze toward the final horizon of our long journey. We are leaving the lowlands, the bustling cities, of water and the dark, pebble-strewn shores, to embark on the ultimate ascent, the journey to the sacred mountain peak, where the earth meets the heavens, and where the long winding history of the samurai finally dissolves into the infinite. Imagine yourself beginning this climb in the deepest, most silent hours of the night. The path beneath your feet is no longer sand or gravel, but ancient, volcanic, stone-hard, cold, and grounding. As you ascend, the air becomes thinner, sharper, and impossibly clean, carrying the scent of frozen minerals and the first faint traces of the eternal snows that guard the summit. This is the final stage of the warrior's path, a transition from the world of action, steel, and silk to the world of pure, unmoving spirit. Listen to the sound of your own progress. Every step on the frozen earth is a slow, deliberate crunch, a rhythmic thud that echoes against the dark walls of the ravines. The rhythm is steady, a heartbeat of stone that matches the slowing pulse of your own heart. As you climb higher, the forests of cedar and pine fall behind, their silhouettes disappearing into the heavy bank of clouds below. They are replaced by hardy mountain shrubs, and then, finally, by the majestic desolation of the high altitudes where nothing grows but the spirit. There are no birds here to sing, no insects to hum, and no wind to howl lonely, a silence so profound that it feels like a physical presence, wrapping around you like a heavy, silver cloak of protection. The stars above are no longer distant points of light. They are brilliant, vibrating diamonds set against a sky of the deepest, most crystalline obsidian. They seem close enough to touch, their light illuminating the path with a pale, celestial glow that makes the snow-capped ridges ahead shimmer like fallen starlight dot as you reach the high ridges. The temperature drops further, and a fine powdery snow begins to fall, not a storm of violence, but a gentle, rhythmic descent of frozen light. The flakes drift down in slow, graceful spirals, landing silently on the dark wool of your robes and the cold stone of the path. Each flake is like a moment of history, a memory of a battle fought, a poem written, or a tea bowl shared, landing softly and then disappearing into the vast, white stillness. The higher you climb, the more the world below vanishes. The great castles, the battlefields of the Sengoku era, the refined tea-houses of Edo, and the lantern-lit harbors are all swallowed by a vast rolling sea of clouds that stretches out in every direction like a frozen ocean. You are standing above the world, a solitary figure moving through a landscape of ice and stars. This is the place of the kami of the sky, a sanctuary where the spirit is stripped of everything but its own essence, where the samurai finally finds the ultimate victory, the victory over the self. You find a small stone shelter near the summit, its walls built from the very bones of the mountain by monks of a forgotten age. Inside, there is no fire, only the absolute, unshakable stillness of the rock. Sit here for a moment and look out, toward the east, where the first infinitesimal hint of light is beginning to silver the edge of the world's curve. The samurai understood that this was the ultimate goal of the path, to reach a height where the self is no longer a separate thing, but a part of the mountain, a part of the wind, and a part of the light. The discipline of the blade, the honor of the code, and the peace of the tea ceremony have all led to this single moment of total, effortless suspension. You are no longer a traveler. You are the peak itself, unmoving, eternal, and at peace. Feel the weight of your limbs becoming one with the weight of the stone beneath you. Your breath is a slow, rhythmic mist that appears for a second in the starlight and then vanishes into the cold air. The rhythm of your breathing is the only clock in this high sanctuary. There is no tomorrow to plan for, no yesterday to remember, and no noise to distract. There is only the vast silver silence of the high peaks and the steady, quiet expansion of your own heart. The snow continues to fall, covering the path you took, smoothing over the jagged edges of the rocks, and wrapping the entire mountain in a blanket of pure, restorative white. You are safe. You are protected by the height and the cold. You are at the end of the road, as the first light of the dawn begins to glow behind the distant peaks. The history of the samurai reaches its final conclusion. The warrior has laid down his sword, the scholar has put aside his brush, and the spirit has returned to the source from which it came. The mists of the rising sun are beginning to swirl around the summit, turning the silver world into a landscape of soft gold and pale rose. But for you, the journey remains in the dark, in the deep, and in the quiet. The light is a promise for another time. For now, the night is your home, and the silence is your sanctuary. And so, we have reached the end of our long journey through the rising mists of ancient Japan. We have walked the halls of the Heian palaces, forged the steel in the sacred fires of the forge, stood against the storms of the coast, and found peace in the hidden gardens of the mind. The story of the samurai is a story of balance, the balance between the sharp edge and the soft heart, between the roar of the battle and the whisper of the tea kettle. The path is now complete. The road through the mountains and the sea has led you exactly where you were meant to be. Here, in this moment of total and absolute rest. The mists have closed behind you. The lanterns of the world below have all flickered out, and the mountain has claimed its silence. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to see, and nothing left to carry. You have shed the weight of history, and in its place, you have found the lightness of the dream. The world of the samurai, the world of honor, beauty, and discipline, now lives only in the quiet spaces of your own mind. It is a protective spirit that will watch over your sleep, a steady and ancient rhythm that will guide you through the darkness. You are the mountain, you are the mist, you are the deep, dark water of the night. Breathe in the last scent of the mountain air, clean and cold. Breathe out the last of the world's noise. The journey is over, the story is told, and the rest is yours. May your sleep be as deep as the Kiso Valley, and as peaceful as the moon over the Pacific. Everything is still, everything is quiet. You are home, you are safe, you are at rest. Good night, traveler of the rising mist. Sleep now, for the history is complete, and the dream has just begun.